Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Jacob Young Show. It's Wednesday. It's January 23rd, 2019. And give everybody a minute to join here. It's good to see all the familiar faces. And before we start off, I just want to give a big shout out. Of course, as you know, if you've known me from social media, you've known me from my some photos and stuff. I love hats. I love getting hats. I love receiving hats. And of course, my good friend Stetson Frost, who is a family member to the great Lane Frost, has an incredible company that he started not too many years ago, but it's just, boomed. And he sent me a couple hats. And of course, this one here is really special because Lane Frost, the bull rider, as you know, movie 8 Seconds. Hey, Mindy, how you doing? And the feather represents the feather that he always had in his cowboy hat. And it says Lane Frost on it. So I just want to say thank you. And if you're interested, they got tons and tons of great gear for men and women. Really, really great stuff. And the t-shirts, they're just so soft. The ones you want to just live in forever and go to sleep in. And so I just want to say thank you. Go to lanefrost.com, lanefrost.com. It's very, very simple. And as my buddy Stetson Frost would say, keep it frosty. So, let me say, we are in the tick of the movie awards season. Royal Prince was in a car accident, and my son, as well as you, will become millionaires with your spin art. This and more on tonight on the Jacob Young Show. Now, it's Wednesday, January 23rd, 2019. We didn't have a show last week because I was in Los Angeles, and now I am home again with my family, jacked up on coffee. I don't normally drink that much, in snowy Utah. And I hope everybody out there in the Midwest and the East Coast kept it safe, has started to thaw out a bit from that snow and the deep freeze from the weekend. I was in Los Angeles last week, and it rained the entire week. I almost had to catch an Uber boat. I'm not kidding. It was that deep. The water was crazy. It's just, that city just is not capable of dealing with water. So now, here in Utah, of course, the Sundance Film Festival begins this week. Many of next year's nominated movies will be seen for the very first time this week in Park City. In fact, there's lots of movie news to talk about. But first, now this is kind of in the news. Prince Philip, husband of Queen, at age 97, was driving his Range Rover in England when he hit another car with 2 passengers and a small child. His car rolled over, but thankfully no one was seriously injured. This brings up a few good questions to talk about. First of all, why was the Queen's husband driving all by himself and not wearing a seatbelt? But more importantly, should he still be driving at 97? Now, in many states, the legal age of driver's license, to get a driver's license, is 18. Used to be 16 or even 15 in some states. My question is, since there's a minimum age to get your driver's license, should there be a maximum age? Or do you think it should be left up to the individual, or in some cases their immediate family, when it's time to give up the car, give up the driving? Let's see what everybody's saying. It looks like we got quite a few people on here. Candace, thanks for joining. Garen, thank you. Everybody seems to be here. Mrs. says hello. She must be in bed. Oh, everybody in my household right now is so sick. Sick with a serious head cold or something, and I've been avoiding them like it's the plague. I love my children, but I'm washing my hands. Trying not to because they've got all the boogers and all those germs and everything all over them all the time. And as much as you keep them clean, they still manage to get everybody sick. It started with my son, went to my daughter, went to Grace, my other daughter. Now Kristen's sick. And I'm praying, I'm holding on and taking vitamin C and zinc to try to stay sick. Or try not to stay sick, rather. And I want to talk a little bit more about Prince Philip because this is kind of interesting. This is a true story. You cannot make this stuff up. I was invited to a golf tournament many, many years ago. He also goes by the name of the Duke of Edinburgh. And the golf tournament was in Windsor. It was a full week long. And the cherry on top was that everybody got to dine at Windsor Castle with the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip. Now, while the events were going on, I got to know this gentleman. His name was Richard. Very posh guy. And we're at the dinner because we'd had many pints together over that week. And he asked me, he goes, "Are you having a good time, Jacob?" And I said, "Oh my gosh, I've never believed that I'd ever be in the Windsor Castle. It's such a historical place." He kind of chuckled, and he asked me to come with him. And we were quarantined now to a particular wing and particular room in there, a big dining area. The armory room is what they called it. And so they take me into the royal kitchen. Now, this is the oldest part of the castle. It's been around since like 1125 AD, 1125 AD. I mean, vaulted ceilings as far as the eye could see. It's all modern inside there with all the modern, kitchen. But of course, they had these great big fireplaces on both sides, and you could see where you could imagine in your head where, the boys who were cooking, they'd be spinning a pig. They had that set up still as an artifact. And then he takes me into another big corridor, and there's like this 35-mile-an-hour wind that's blowing on me. And he asked me, and I'm a pretty astute person, I'm pretty smart. He asked me, where I thought that wind was coming. And of course, I knew in castles back in the medieval days that they would have ice caves underneath castles and to keep their goods from going bad and food and whatnot. And it's kind of like a primitive air conditioning. It blows up through the castle and it keeps it nice and cool all the time. A little too cold for me. But, with that, he said, "Here, check this out." And there was a spiral staircase, and there was red carpet. He told me, he goes, "Only royal is allowed to walk on that carpet." And he said, "Come with me, but don't say anything." So I walked down this spiral staircase. It's just massive blocks, just build this, it's a castle. We go down the stairs, and we go into this vaulted stained glass. I mean, it was more beautiful than any church I've ever seen. And it was Princess Victoria's swimming pool. It was created just for her. And in the center of this pool was this case, almost like a glass case, a box. And there on it was a saddle. And it's where Prince Charles, as a small child, trained to play polo. It was pretty unique. It was a unique experience. And as we're walking back up, he took me to the east wing, and this was separate from the wing that we were already in. And he goes, "Above us, the Queen is in stay." So literally, Queen Elizabeth was above me, just a floor. I mean, probably 30 feet above me, but she was there nonetheless. And then I started thinking, because this is how my mind works. I mean, if I'm a king or queen, I wouldn't want to ever leave this place. I mean, how fantastic, and what a crazy lifestyle. And so I asked him, I say, "Well, is there, any spirits? And be straight with me about this." And he said there were 7 of them that make themselves quite known. Spooky stuff. Spooky stuff. Now, let's see here. Okay, Candace says, "I think it's up to the driver when they stop driving, even if others, including doctors, tell you to stop. Sadly, they will stop if there's an accident. Based on my great aunt's." Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. But yeah. I mean, you just let them continue to drive. It's it's a scary thing. Oh, Gary pulled Mindy says Gary pulled the keys from his mom at 79. Yeah, I mean, come on. You do know, and I've heard, Prince Philip, of course, he's a very stubborn man, and he's, very independent. And sure, he was playing polo up until 3 years ago. I doubt. But, yeah, so, taking the keys away, I mean, I know, I've dealt with grandparents that, feel like they can still do it, but, your eyesight's going, your ears, your sound, I mean, only, your senses are dulled. I don't know, it's scary. But anyway, moving on our show last year, I talked about the mysterious artist Banksy and his work. And I want to tell you about another English artist that I was reading about. His name is Damien Hirst. I saw a profile about him while I was in Los Angeles. His paintings and sculptures have sold for as much as $100 million. And he doesn't do any of the actual work himself. He has a factory of workers who execute his instructions in painting and sculptures that he signs and he sells for millions. Now, what do you think about that? Do you think it's right for an artist to take the entire credit for a painting that they didn't actually do any work on, other than coming up with the idea? I mean, it's funny, but a lot of his paintings, they look like spin art. I mean, have you ever done spin art? I've done spin art. I love spin art. Kids love spin art. And that's pretty much what Damien's work looks like, spin art. But I guess, you know, like any art, the beauty is in the eye of the beholder, even if it is spin art. Now, it is award season, and when the artists who make movies are recognized, we do love giving ourselves awards in show business. We just had the Golden Globe Awards that we talked about a few weeks ago. Now, this Sunday, the Screen Actors Guild Awards. I get to vote on those awards because that's the one that the actors get to vote for their peers. The Oscar nominations were just announced yesterday, and of course, it's mostly the same actors in mostly the same movies nominated for the Golden Globes and the SAG Awards, except there were a few surprises. Sam Elliott got Best Supporting Actor nomination for A Star is Born. And, you know, in honor of Sam Elliott, I'm growing out my Sam Elliott mustache. That was a horrible impersonation just now of Sam Elliott. But somebody said, it was a comedian, that Sam's mustache does all the acting. I mean, I've seen it. That mustache does the talking, the walking, does everything. But gotta love Sam Elliott. And another big surprise at the Oscars this year was a number of nominations for the foreign film Roma. And if you have Netflix, you can see and watch this one at home. Has anybody seen Roma yet, and what do you think about it? And I also want to ask if you have any early predictions who you think might win the awards this year. As we get closer to the Oscars, I'm going to do an online Oscar pool, and the winner will get a really, really cool movie-themed prize. Let me know if there's anyone you thought should have gotten a nomination this year that was overlooked by the Academy. Let me see. Garen, do you think Bradley Cooper was cheated in the director category? You know, it was his first film directing. And I know how the Academy operates, and maybe it was the best directorial debut. But, you know, a lot of times they want you to do more than just one. I mean, I'm not sure. I might have to look at the facts. I'm not sure if Clint Eastwood's first movie he directed was nominated, but he's had plenty after that. Then he says, Jeff Koons, the artist, does the same thing. Yeah, you know, dictates their art, of course. Candace wants Lady Gaga and Glenn Close, to win Best Actress for the SAG and the Oscar. Tavia says Bradley Cooper. Nice. What is Mark saying? I drive like Mr. Magoo. Okay. Nice, Mark. He does. I've ridden with him. So at the Golden Globes, for the second year in a row, they cut the memoriam, you know, the memorial where they talked to the actors and the actresses who passed away during the last year. I'm not sure if it was cut for time or if they didn't produce the video segment in the first place. But I'm hoping that the SAG Awards and the Oscars will continue to show the people that we've lost, of course, over the years. I think it's really important to recognize those people who aren't here anymore. But you have, you know, that's given so much in entertainment over the years. And, you know, they're important to me because sometimes I don't even realize some of these great actors have passed away. I'm sure you guys it's happened to you too. You go, no, that person's still around and that person's they've been gone for a year. And it's amazing sometimes, you know, the Hollywood stars that the names that come up and they don't make any news. I found out recently watching a Turner Classic movie tribute, actually, the stars that we lost in 2018, that John Gavin passed away this year. He was the longtime husband of Constance Towers, who I worked with on General Hospital and on the stage. And of course, you know her as Helena Cassadine. Now, her husband, John, was probably best known and best recognized for the Hitchcock movie Psycho. And incidentally, he was also our ambassador to Mexico in the 1980s. And since he was a past president of the Screen Actors Guild, I hope they recognize him this Sunday. And I want to give him my personal shout out and my belated condolences to Connie Towers. A few years back, we did a reading of an Agatha Christie play on a stage in Beverly Hills, and she is amazing. She's such a classy woman, on screen, off screen, in real life. And I know for a fact that I would not have gotten the Emmy for General Hospital if it wasn't for her. That's a true story. True. I'm going to try to do something. Oh. Hey, everybody, it's Jacob Young. I am getting prepped for another clip here. Make sure I'm muted. I am muted. On my last air show, we had a snowstorm, unfortunately, in Utah that knocked out my Wi-Fi, so I was broadcasting from my cell phone, and I wasn't able to show you the cooking segment that I'd filmed, and we're going to see that a little bit later. But I wanted to switch gears and talk a little bit about food, because I love food, and if you're like me, you love food, and we can't live without food, so you might as well enjoy it. And I was able to miss the chaotic LAX. It's got to be one of the most chaotic airports in the country. And I flew in and out of Burbank Airport, which has got to be one of the most convenient airports in the country. I think from ticket counter through security, it took about 15 minutes. And if anybody's flown through Burbank, they literally have a coffee shop, and they had this crappy little restaurant that was, you don't want to eat there. You're not sure if it's, there's got some critters, crawling through it, or salmonella. And, I was very excited to see that they now also have a brand new restaurant by the TV chef, Guy Fieri. I think I said that right. Fieri. I was watching clips, Fieri. I had one of the best breakfasts that I've ever had in the airport at his restaurant. I also Instagrammed a photo if you saw that. The menu and the food was so good. In fact, I wish I could actually eat there when I don't have a plane to catch. But interestingly enough, Guy Fieri's middle name is Ramsey. I didn't know that. I wonder if you guys knew that. I didn't know that. But I guess having the middle name like that is good luck if you want a job as a TV chef. Now, the name of the restaurant in the Burbank Airport is Guy's Burger Joint. It's simple. And in Salt Lake City Airport, speaking of which, we also have a gourmet restaurant by a famous chef called Cat Cora's Kitchen, of course, by Cat Cora. It's incredible. I've had a lot of great meals there. Have you ever experienced a great meal at a restaurant in an airport? Let me know some of your recommendations, because who knows, I'm going to be probably flying through one of your cities at some point, and I need to know. Important. Let me see what's going on here. Everybody's playing nice, right? Okay, let's see. I like Elvis behind you. I like Elvis behind me too. What did you cook? Oh, well, I'm gonna get into that here in a few minutes. Stacy Scott was asking. Tadia says, GH needs you back on the show. I do love General Hospital, but I don't know if it's in the cards at the moment. They've got a pretty stacked, roster at the moment, and I'm a little, there's too many guys over there at the moment. Kristen Young, I like wine bars. I bet you do. No, I do know that. I like wine bars too. Mark says, I love the French restaurant in the Phoenix airport. I actually saw that when I flew through Phoenix not too long ago, because you've been going on and on about that for so many years. Yeah, Stacy, of course. You got a shout out. And of course, as always, if you like hearing your name called on my show, tell your friends about it. Subscribe. It's free. It's a lot of fun. And, we have a good time on here. And the shows just keep getting better and better with different segments, different interviews. I've got a casting director that I'm going to be interviewing next week. And we'll be talking a little bit about the ins and the outs, what it takes to get into the business. It's going to be a really great time. So, going back to food, even though I'm not a celebrity chef on TV, I do love to cook at home, and I wanted to tell you about HelloFresh. case you missed my last program, HelloFresh is, it's a box, it's a box ordering, meal program. Now, there's a lot of them out there, of course, but I've been using this for a very, very long time, a few years now, and I've probably cooked about 100 meals of theirs. I've heard people say, complain maybe their produce wasn't quite fresh enough, but I've never experienced that. And in fact, all the food has always turned out so great. And the great thing about it is it takes the guesswork out. You gain confidence in the kitchen if you're not accustomed to using, certain different herbs and spices, and they come with the spices. Everything's all measured out. It's fantastic. It's also quite cost effective. So if you're looking to do a dinner for somebody, maybe your significant other or somebody you care about, it's a great way. And you're cooking it. It's not like they're cooking it for you. You have to do all the work. But it's nice to have it all laid out, and it comes right to your door. It's all iced up. It's really, really nice. And yeah, I can't say enough good things about it. But I'm going to go ahead and show you this cooking segment that I did. Now, please don't hate me because it's not that great. I didn't shoot it that great. It's the first one I did. I just set up my camera and I shot it. But I did have a little bit of help. I had a little bit of help from my daughter, Molly, which makes an appearance or two in here. And so without further ado, I want to go ahead and run the HelloFresh cooking segment. What some of you may or may not know is that I love to cook. I've always been a cook. I was raised with a bunch of women who are amazing cooks, and it's always been a big part of my life. And now being a parent, I'm always cooking meals with my wife. And one way we found when we're on the go is an easy way to do that is using the company HelloFresh. We've been using them for the last 2 years. Now, 3 things that I love about HelloFresh is one, it's super convenient. It's really easy. You shop online, you choose your meals for that week out of a large selection. It comes to your door in just a couple days. How fresh the ingredients are, they're amazing. And not to mention, you're probably going to be getting some ingredients that you're not going to be able to find at your current grocery stores because they resource from all over the world. And another thing that's great is if you're going to be away, say you're on vacation or visiting your family, they give you the ability to skip any meals that you need to skip. If it's 2, 3, 4 weeks, they're super flexible terms. As you can see, all your ingredients come in this paper bag. It actually all comes in a box. There's 3 separate meals that come in the box. And here's all your ingredients that you need to make this dish. And we're making a cheese-crusted quesadilla. And keep in mind, they have vegetarian options, they have meat options, and all of your step-by-step guide is right here. They make it so simple. They even tell you how many bowls and how many pans you're going to need to prepare the dish. So right now, we're going to wash our ingredients and get to chopping. Now, as you can see, we went ahead and split our poblano peppers, took the stems off, took the seeds out. I love poblano peppers. There's so many great uses for them. Now, they're not like bell peppers. They do have a little kick, but they're not on the high heat side like a chili pepper could be. But delicious none the same. You're going to see what we're going to be doing with that here shortly. I've separated the whites on the scallions and the greens. I'm going to trim those off. And we're going to put these aside for later. Oh, you know what else is handy is these bags that come with all the vegetable ingredients. Just throw your scraps in there because right when you're done, toss it in the garbage. Now I'm going to go ahead and finish up chopping these scallions here as finely as we can. All right, now as you can see, I've drained my corn. Look how big and beautiful these kernels are. We're going to add a little bit of olive oil to it. We're going to do a pinch of pepper, a pinch of salt. And they always come with their own spices. And this one happens to be a Southwest spice blend. It says it's warm and smoky. Sounds delicious. We're going to use half of that in our corn. Okay, you can see we got our spices mixed in with the corn. We got our Southwestern spice. We got our salt and pepper, a little bit of olive oil. Once that's thoroughly mixed up, we're going to put it right on the pan. And the poblano peppers are going to go on there as well, and you're going to put olive oil on them, and they're going to go directly in the oven so we char that up. And we're also going to be adding, shortly, our scallion whites. Now while our poblanos and our corn are being charred in the oven, we're going to take our lime and we're going to create some zest. Now those of you that don't know what zest is, all it is the rind on the outside of the lime. Make sure your lime is washed, of course, and you're just going to grate it into a bowl like so. You need about a tablespoon of that. And once we have that, we'll put that aside. We're going to finish dicing our tomatoes to make our salsa. Lime zest. And we're going to go ahead and split a lime in half, since we already have this one already going. Let's split that right in half. We're going to throw some lime juice in there, a good squeeze of that. Now the next part can be tricky, might be a little hot for some people. Now here's chili pepper. Now if you want your chili pepper to be a little less hot, you want to take the seeds out of it. The seeds always make it a little hotter, but we want to, if you want this, you want to make sure you mince it up just as fine as possible so you're not getting too much of chili per bite. So again, take the seeds out to reduce the heat, and we're going to chop this up real finely. We'll just add it to our salsa, like so. We're going to add a little olive oil, another pinch of some salt, a little bit more, some pepper, and we're going to mix that right on up into there. So one thing to keep in mind when you're ordering is they give you the option for a family of 4 or a family of 2. So everything always comes completely measured out for the exact recipe that you need. Right now I'm going to go ahead and make our sour cream sauce. Now I've added a little bit of water because we want a sort of drizzle consistency. So now we've got all of our vegetables charred up. We're going to add our charred corn into a bowl. Just like so. And then we are going to roughly cut up our poblanos. You don't have to do this perfectly. We're going to make nice bite-sized pieces though. We're going to do the same thing with our scallion whites that have also been charred. We're going to add those in there too. So now we've added our corn, our poblano peppers, our scallions are in there. We're going to go ahead and put the lime zest that we cut up earlier in there. We're going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. And half of the cheese, there's 4 packets because we're a family of 4. So half will be 2, throwing those in there. We're going to mix that up thoroughly. So keep in mind, if you have little ones like I do, they might not like the spice. Most kids don't. But you can always just do a corn and cheese quesadilla. So I'm going to do 2 options. I'm going to do the quesadilla for the grown-ups and a quesadilla for the little ones. All right, my little helper's back. Molly's back to give me a hand. And what we're going to do is we're going to olive oil the tortillas because we want them nice and crunchy when they get into the oven. So how we're going to do that is we're going to take some olive oil and we're going to rub it all around. Can you help me do that? And we've just washed our hands, so always make sure cleanliness in the kitchen. But we're only going to be putting the olive oil on one side, and you'll see why in just a second. Right, we're going to go olive down. We're going to fold it. We're going to continue the step with the next 4. Right, next step, Molly, is we're going to go ahead and fill up the tortilla, just on one side though, with our mix, with our corn poblano cheese. You want to give me a hand here? Just put it on one half of that side right there. Keep going. Awesome. Here, let me give you a hand. We'll spread it out a little bit. And we're going to do that with a couple other, but we're also going to make, for the little ones, just a plain cheese quesadilla. So we're just going to sprinkle that in. I'm going to help me smooth that out on that one side. Can you help me do that? Smooth it out. Get it all in that one half. Try to keep it on the tortilla. Okay. So there you go. Now we got one cheese one poblano. Now we're going to go ahead and use the rest of the filling.
Can I help you?
Yeah, of course you can. There you go. Alright, so we just took it out of the pan, we flipped them over so they were all crunchy on the top already, and now we're going to take that last bag of cheese and we're going to sprinkle it all over the quesadillas. Can you help me with that, Molly? HelloFresh is always great about is always adding lime. You see it on the outside of the bags with their logo on it, and you can see why. There's always a little lime left over. It helps give that freshness. And make sure, if you want some more lime, just cut it up, add it to the plate, garnish it with it, so everybody can enjoy it as they see fit. Now you can cook like a pro, thanks to HelloFresh. And you can say goodbye to fast food, takeout, and hello to fresh, because it's that simple. It's that simple. It's so awesome. We have such a great time doing it. We do it as a family. You know, you get to choose your recipes that you want to work on. I think it's a blast. It's cost effective. And I'm excited to be. I'm actually working with them now. It's kind of a dream come true because I was already using their product. So you know, you do things that you're passionate about, and I'm very passionate about that. So, and speaking of more food, on my last program, I announced a soup recipe contest. One of my favorite things to make at home that I'm famous for with my friends and my family are my soups. And because of our Wi-Fi issue on the last show, I'm extending the contest for one more week to email me your favorite soup recipe. The recipe I choose to make on air will be the winner, again, of Jonathan Bennett's Burn Cookbook, based on the movie Mean Girls. Now you can email me your soup recipe at the Jacob Young Show 1, Jacob Young Show 1 at gmail.com. Again, the Jacob Young Show 1 at gmail.com. Now, the current frontrunner for the soup competition is Karina Katie, who sent in a recipe for her pea soup. It sounds pretty tasty, Karina. Thanks for emailing me. I also have a pea soup recipe to share from the very famous, and I've been there many times when I lived in New York, department store in New York City, Bergdorf Goodman. Now, theirs is a vegetarian pea soup made without any cream. They use all kinds of things, sweet potatoes for the creaminess, the texture, and their soup sells for like something ridiculous, like $17 a bowl. But I have the recipe, and I'm going to make it, and I'm going to show you how to make it, a whole pot of it, for $10. We'll talk about that more on my next episode. Let's see, what's going on? I think I'm going to try to make a homemade chicken soup. I think that's a great idea. Sounds good, especially this time of year, right? On the last show, I told the story of making my signature soup, and I think this is noteworthy, even if you saw it from the last episode, but it was so funny because I was on the talk, and I was cooking a tortilla, or Southwestern tortilla soup, and, you know, there's always the pot of the raw food on the show and with their ingredients, and then there's the finished product to show the TV audience and to taste. And when I did it, on the talk, Julie Chen was on vacation, and Kris Jenner was subbing for her. And when I finished explaining my soup recipe, instead of tasting from the pot of the cooked chicken, Kris Jenner had two heaping spoonfuls of my soup from the pot filled with the raw chicken. And I always wondered if it gave Kris Jenner salmonella. I didn't hear anything from the last time I told this story, so I guess I'm in the clear. But knowing a Kardashian, they're probably like, oh, I wish I could just get salmonella poisoning so I could lose a few more pounds. But let me know if you enjoyed this week's cooking segment, because I have a lot more planned. And also, don't forget to email your soup recipes to the Jacob Young Show 1 at gmail.com. I'm going to see if there's anything. So Candace says, I make good Maryland crab soup with something extra special. Would that be Old Bay? I'm just guessing. Let's see. Tavy said she loved it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun doing. And, of course, I got to give kudos to Kristen Young, my wife, for operating the camera. She is so patient and so good to me. Of course, she gets to reap the benefits of all the food that I cook because I enjoy it that much. All right. Well, if you have any more questions or any more comments, let me know. This has been a really fun episode with everybody. I'm glad that the Wi-Fi was back up and running, and we should not have any more issues from here on out. I also called the internet company and said, you guys got to boost this thing up, make sure this thing's working through the snow no matter what. Oh, Crystal says you're all such a good team. Thank you. Well, besides Old Bay, I mean, what Maryland crab soup doesn't have Old Bay in it? Of course. Well, I've had several different crab soups. You know, I know they're pretty creamy. They're pretty dense because of, you know, and I enjoy them. I mean, I'm more of a brothy base soup guy. Trying to make them a little more healthy. Watch my girlish figure. You know, I think that's important. Garen says, do you know how to make lobster bisque soup? Sure. Do you have a recipe? Send it my way. Email it. There's a competition on, man. It's a signed book by Jonathan Bennett, and will be signed by yours truly as well. It's a really good collectible. It even, you know, he insults me on it. It says, because he played J.R. Chandler on All My Children as well as myself, and he said, Jacob, you're the second best J.R. And I took that personally. But I got it afterwards because this is the Burn cookbook. He burned me, even when he signed it for me. Jokester. Kristen loves the crab bisque too with Old Bay. Your dad makes a really good one. Doesn't he do it with like fried okra and all sorts of stuff in there? It's really tasty. I'm still on taco soup, Crystal says. Yeah. So anyway, you know, I'll give you a few more minutes if anybody else got anything to say. But again, great show tonight, and I look forward to next week. I'm going to be having an interview with a casting director friend of mine who is absolutely amazing. He casts so many movies. He knows so many actors, and he has such great insight as to what it takes to get into this industry, of course, and what it takes to make it through the auditioning process to be on the big screen. So if you have anybody that's interested in learning about that and finding out a little more information from an expert, please tune in. So again, I was going to say, if your name was mentioned on tonight's show and you want your friends to hear it, tell them they can watch all the replays, of course, of all the shows at any time on YouTube. And thank you for tuning in, because I appreciate your loyalty. And I'll see you next time on the Jacob Young Show, where even if you miss a little, you miss a lot. Hey, everybody. Have a good night.